Good evening, good evening, good evening. Come into the Jaye Spot. We're playing Jaye Spot every Thursday from 6 to 7, giving you real relationship talk, real relationship drama with the best night of your life. Your host, Jay, and Simply E, hold on, get ready to enter the Jaye Spot on IntellectualRadio.com.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the best night of your life. Woo! You have entered the Jaye Spot on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartStation. I'm your host, Jay, and this bubbling beauty right here is my co-host, my partner in crime, Simply E. How you doing, E?
I'm great. And yourself?
Good. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you all for joining us on another Thursday for the Jaye Spot. Last week we were out on a little vacation, staycation.
Yes.
Man, let me tell you guys, I went to Florida with my family. I should have asked y'all to pray for me before I went. But it was 9 of us, and so we had 5 kids. Now, I only have 1 kid, and he's like a teenager now. So the madness that I experienced over the course of those 5 days, it was enough to make me make some life-changing decisions.
Make me lose my mind.
There was a 12-year-old, and I'm telling you, my 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And when I tell you those two went at it like there was nobody's business. So I had to pull these two to the side, and I said, come here, let me holler at you. And so I told them, when we got back home, I was making an appointment to see my physician. And I told them that these days that I spent with you all have convinced me to go and get my tubes tied. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to go get my tubes tied because the madness that these two carried on,
it's rough.
It was rough. And I said, you know what? I commend parents that have more than one.
Girl, it forces me to drink.
I'm like, I couldn't imagine every day. It's a fight. And
yes.
Mind you, now the one that I gave birth to did not make things any better.
Girl, he was in it, wasn't he?
He was in it.
He probably started it.
He was in it, kicking stuff off, recording all the, it was just too much going on. So the 9-year-old, he says, well, what does that mean you're going to get your tubes tied? I said, that means Auntie won't be able to have any more kids. He looked at me, he shrugged his shoulder. He was like, oh, okay. And he ran off. Like, okay, look, that's
nothing
you.
To do with me.
So, word to the wise, if you only have 1 child, do some research on what it's like to travel with more than 1 kid, because I think your nerves and your tolerance level is a little different. So I commend everyone that, have 2 or more kids. Listen, I commend you. For parents, period, I commend you. But you all, it's a different struggle when, it's just some other people that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely wasn't prepared. So what I'll do is when you want to spend a night, look, let's flip a coin. If it's more than 1 kid, look, you all can't come at the same time. Flip a coin. Whoever wins, that's who's coming. I'll get you on the next go round, but I can't do the multiple kid. But really, I seriously thought, I'm just like,
that was gonna be great, huh? He's like, this gonna be fun. Children gonna have some fun. Yeah, right.
Oh my God. And then I got sick. We ended up getting sick, you all, because I'm poor-blooded. Like the cold, it really does something to me. So I spent all 5 of those days being sick, but I'm glad that I'm better. And again, we are back. So thank you all for again joining us on the Jaye Spot on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartStation. You guys, do me a favor, go to our Facebook page and like our fan page at the Jaye Spot. And also follow us on Twitter at Jaye Spot, and also follow us and like us on Instagram, the Jaye Spot Radio. And Jay is spelled Jaye for all 3. And this episode of the Jaye Spot is being brought to you by State Farm, Darren Tillis's office, located 3830 West Roosevelt Road, and that's in Chicago. Phone number 773-826-0766. Again, that number is 773-826-0766. We want to do a recap on the last show, which was shacking up. The pros and the cons of shacking up. Now, I myself, I've never shacked up.
I have.
So I don't know what the experience is. What is that like?
It's wonderful because you get to see how that person really is, but mind you, nothing is yours anymore. Nothing that you hold sacred. Like I had an issue with my juice. Don't drink my juice, I'm the girl from I'm Eve from Barbershop. Who drank my juice? I have that problem. So we buy the same things. Just eat your food and leave my stuff alone. But when you shack up with a man, they don't feel that way. They figure since you haven't drunk it yet, you don't want it. So I'm going to drink it for you, and then the fight begins. Mike Tyson and Holyfield. So
wow. Now see, okay, so I guess I have some bad habits that if I was to live with someone, I probably need to break them because I just like to sit in the bathroom and just think. Yeah, be on my phone. Like that's my favorite room in my house. And it's just two people in my house. So when I want solitude, I could go to my bedroom. It's just me. But I like the bathroom for some reason because if I want to turn the water on and let the water run, I can do that. Or if I want to be a nerd and just sit in the tub with my feet and, be on my phone, I can do that. And I can sit there for hours. And, sometimes my son, he'll come and he'll like, I just wanted to check on you and make sure you was okay. Yeah, I'm okay. You know where I'm at. I'm at the same spot. So maybe I may have to change that around.
I don't know. The pros of it is, you have in-house. So, and for those who don't understand what in-house means, you got some in-house booty. So,
okay, that sounds good.
That, and then if you're a cook, if you like to cook or that person likes to cook, you all can cook together. So that's always a fun thing to do. They're there instead of you having to call them. But the tripped out thing is when you're mad at one another, you have to see one another. And so to be ignored to your face is one thing to be ignored on the phone, but to be ignored to your face and you can't leave the house because both of you all reside there, that's another difficult portion.
Oh, I don't think I would know how to deal with that. Like that may be something and I would like to go, let's have trial and error. Like let's go through some of those things beforehand.
Well, that's when the guy spends the night or you spend the night over his house, whatever, and see what's what. But then, like I say, everybody fakes the funk.
Right, because everybody gonna be on their best behavior.
So the trial and error portion may be longer than what you anticipate. It may be 2, 3, 4 years because you're still faking the funk with one another. So that's I
hope he doesn't fake the funk with me because I have too much going on. So I don't think that I have a representative because I slip up so much. I fade in and out. So it's just like what you see is what you get. Now, there are a couple of different parts to me and you will see all parts. There's right. You will see them at some point and it doesn't take a long time to see the extraness. And I tell guys all the time, like, I'm just too extra to even try to hide who I am because it wouldn't be fair for you, for me to hide and act like I'm just
shy and innocent.
Miss Mary, Miss Little Doolittle.
She ain't innocent.
I am innocent though. Now that I am. Okay.
Yeah.
I am, but that will be too much to just spring on somebody. So, I guess pros and cons, they do shacking up. But according to an online source, they said that couples who shack up before getting married are more likely to get divorced compared to their counterparts who didn't live together prior to marriage. So that kind of seems backwards. So it's like, okay, well, why would you shack up? If you shacking up, you're going to get divorced quicker than the people that didn't live together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I didn't understand that one, because it's like, why would you get married if you already lived together and you knew you didn't like each other and you were living together? Why would you still
Because
take?
it's just a good thing to do. We might as well go ahead. And I hate that when people say,
Yeah,
we just went ahead and got married. Why not? If you got to do it like that,
I don't want to do
I
it.
don't want exactly. I'm okay.
Like, don't settle for me. If
No.
I'm not the number one draft pick,
Exactly.
don't
I'm
settle
okay.
for me. Like, I'm good. Like, if you have to make a choice between me and somebody else,
I'm
choose
good.
the other person.
Because
Like,
I always got Casper.
Ooh,
Hey, baby. Oh, boy, he's so cute.
Well, we're gonna have to look into that, Casper. But tonight, you guys, we are going to be talking about child abuse. Something serious tonight.
Yep.
So we want you all to chime in, share your experiences if you have some experiences or some stories, or if you have any resources that you know of, please share those things with us tonight. So we're going to take a short musical break, and when we return, we will be talking about child abuse on the Jaye Spot, IntellectualRadio.com.
I got you. From the block to Broadway, to Wall Street and busy hallways, I got you. Through poverty and pain, baby, you know I got you. Ain't no shame. From the block to Broadway, to Wall Street and busy hallways, I got you. I got you.
And I'll be alive. I never put you out of my dream. As you are my dancing boy. Get too far. Said I laid my life down on the line for you. I'm gonna love you. And baby, where you need. I dropped down to my knees for you.
Love's got hold of me. I'm a slave, don't set me free. I'm a runaway running down Love Street. Your love's got hold of me. I'm a slave, don't set me free. I'm a runaway running down Love Street. From the block to Broadway, to Wall Street and busy hallways, I got you. I got you.
Welcome back to the Jaye Spot on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartStation. I'm your host, Jay, and this bubbling beauty right here, my co-host, partner in crime, Simply E.
Hello.
Hey, E.
Hey, boo thing.
And right next to E, we have another diva in the house. Hey, D. D, you have D. Devereaux here joining us tonight. How are you, D?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Good. And right next to D, we have Mr. Bavon. I'm sorry. Look, what's your last name? I'm so sorry.
Joseph.
Bavon Joseph.
That was easy.
You know, I'm
Easy.
sorry. I told you, I just came off of, I'm sick.
No, you messed up my
I'm
little
sick.
stuff. That's what I did to the guys.
How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Good. Thank you all for joining us. D, let me start off with you. Tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Thank you so much. So my name is D. Vicky Stevens, and I do quite a few different things. Currently, I'm out promoting my book. I am an author of a fictional children's book that teaches financial literacy.
Oh, cool.
This book is called Lainey's Lessons About Money.
Mhm.
And in this book, Lainey, the main character, faces a few different challenges in which she has the opportunity to learn about credit, the importance of savings, and then also earning by way of entrepreneurship. And Lainey is a girl with attitude. You know, she doesn't always have the best attitude, but towards the end of the story, whether things go her way or not, she still overcomes by adjusting her attitude about the situation.
Okay.
So I'm doing that. In addition to these lessons, I'm also now doing a little bit of blogging, do a monthly blog, followed up with a video blog as well, where I have discussions, motivational discussions about goal accomplishing and things like that. And also a financial wellness coach. I do workshops for children, teens, and adults.
Oh, nice.
good.
Okay,
Help
good.
you to get your finances in order, be it planning for mortgages, fixing your credit, getting things in order that way as well. So got a few irons.
So how many books do you have?
So this is my first.
Your first,
This
okay.
is my first book.
How
that I
can
do.
people purchase that?
Yeah, so it can be purchased at my website at www.bellafeminique.com, BELLAFEMINIQUE.
Okay. And then how can they get in contact with you for your other services? How can people get in contact with you?
Right at my website as well.
Just-
So the book can be purchased at the website, as well as workshops can be booked. And you can also simply reach out to me, email me, and let me know how I may be of service to you or your organization.
Okay. Do you want to provide your email?
Yes, I can be reached at author D Vicky, AUTHORD Vicky, VICKI at bellafeminique.com.
Okay, and you guys will also have that information posted on the Jaye Spot fan page, JAYE Spot on Facebook. And okay, Bhavan, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people what you do?
Sure, my name is Bhavan Joseph, and I am the founder of a nonprofit called the Greenwood Project. It's brand new this year, started in February, and the mission is to introduce minority kids on the south and west side of Chicago to the trading and financial industry.
That's good.
So this summer we were able to place 5 kids in paid internships.
Oh, cool. That's
And,
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. At a number of like hedge funds and also the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. And we also took a number of like maybe 60 to 80 kids on tours of trading companies like Goldman Sachs and TD Ameritrade, the CME and stuff like that. So we're brand new, but we scaled really fast, and we're looking to expand in Chicago and also New York, some other cities as well.
Okay. So now how can people get in contact with you?
Sure, through our website, greenwoodproject.org.
Okay.
And they can send emails to info@greenwoodproject.org as well. We're on Facebook, the Greenwood Project, on Twitter at Greenwood053121. And, follow us. We're pretty active on social media and trying to connect with as many kids as we can. So.
Good. Well, I am so glad that you guys are providing this services for the children, and you also can reach Bhavan. We'll have his information posted up on the Jaye Spot fan page as well. So tonight is all about the kids. We want to help kids in as many ways as possible. And today, our kids are dealing with so much. So tonight, we want to tackle what I like to refer as the secret thing that happens to children, child abuse. This is not a pretty topic. Nobody wants to talk about this. This is secretive, but it's affecting our children. It's affecting the way that they learn. It's affecting the way that they interact with other people. It's affecting the way that they interact with each other. And I just feel like this is something that needs to be brought to the light, because a lot of times this is so horrific that people tend to want to act like it's not happening.
Yeah.
But it is. So first, I want to start off with just giving an example. We're giving the definition of child abuse. Child abuse is a physical, sexual, or a psychological mistreatment or neglect of children, especially by parents or other caregivers. Now, that can be also, we can just go ahead and include uncles and aunties and anybody that's close, that has a close relationship to the child, can be a predator of, child abuse. So I wanted to talk about some examples of physical child abuse. In your opinion, what are some examples of physical child abuse?
I mean, you have sexual abuse. You have most definitely we all have been whooped, but
Right.
you have that time where that parent or that caregiver who does it excessively, and a lot of children have died from that.
So would you consider getting a whooping or a spanking? Would you consider that child abuse?
No, depending on how bad it's getting whooped out. If you beating your child to bloody, something's wrong with you, clearly. I believe in discipline. I'm a disciplinarian to the utmost, but you still have to restrain. And then even when you do discipline your child, you don't do it while you're angry and stuff. I laugh when I whoop my children. I think it's sorry, don't judge me. I know it's a little demonic, but it makes me laugh. I don't know why. But I whoop them. And then if I laugh too much, then I can't whoop them anymore because I'm too busy cracking up laughing. So, but I whoop them, with laughter.
What about you, Dee? What do you believe that whoopings or spankings is an example of physical child abuse?
Not at all. I also am a proponent of disciplining your children. I believe that sometimes it's okay to discipline them, but again, not to do it out of emotion. Do it as a consequence, and you're also explaining why it is that this happened, and there are consequences to your actions. But again, with restraint, if necessary. I'm not saying every time the kid does something wrong. But as a parent, sometimes it's just time.
Right. And what about you, Bhavon?
Well, I grew up in Trinidad originally. I moved here when I was a teenager. And where I come from, that's how everybody was brought up. You got a beating if you did something that you deserved it for. But I agree that it does, like some people do take it a little too far. And it could injure a child if, you do it out of anger and emotion. But I mean, I have no problem with that.
And see, now me, I think that it's certain stages. Like when you're like the 2-year-olds and 1 and 2-year-olds, I've seen some aggressive things happen to kids at that age, and I'm just like, at 2 years old, they don't understand. Like they're learning, so you have to teach them. So I think 2 years, 2, 3 years old, a tap, but at the older that they get, it's some different avenues that you have to take, because especially with boys, like I have an 18-year-old, 6'2" son. You see me. So I can't necessarily go in there and
on him.
I'm gonna whoop you. I have to bring some reinforcement with me. So if at this point, if it gets to that point where I have to physically discipline him, I can't come talking. I have to have somebody else with me. And so he knows that, but growing up, he was always just a mild-mannered child. So I really didn't have to deal with a lot of that when he was growing up. It's when he hit 13, I think maybe he fell out the bed that night and bumped his head, and he ain't been right since.
He was a man.
he hasn't been right since he turned 13. So that's when I had to, readjust my thinking, because, he was always this smooth, cool kid. Like, pop him around a couple times, about it. But now,
they get that one piece of hair. And then you want to wail on them, and then when they start to grow taller than you, or they start to develop, I have a daughter and I have boys, so when they start to smell themselves, as which we call it back down south and stuff, you smelling yourself, you feeling yourself. Now you want to challenge me as if we on the same level,
right? And
then if you step toe to toe with me, now I can't deal with you as if you're my child, because now you coming to me like you grown. So I'm gonna handle you like you grown. And now at that point, it's not child abuse. It's called I'm defending myself,
right?
As a parent. But the child abuse, when you have the small children, like I remember reading a story of a baby, I think it was last year, I think she was either 2 or 3, and the caregiver, which was a cousin or something, or a cousin and her friend was watching the baby, and she was crying or whatever, and they beat that baby to death.
Oh
And it
wow.
was so sad, and one, babies don't deserve to be in anybody's coffin.
Right.
It is like one of my co-workers said, it's morbid, to see
Right.
babies in the coffins. I can accept it if you died of natural disasters or whatever, natural causes. But because somebody abused you, they beat you, they burnt you, put you in the microwave, it's so many things that I've read. They've eaten you, I'm like, what the heck, So you have to look on the levels of abuse, and then there's the sexual and the mental abuse.
Right.
Being a Black woman growing up in Mississippi, you were always told to stay out the sun. You won't get too dark, or your hair is so rough and coarse and stuff. And that really does a number on you growing up, because you're constantly checking yourself, because you're not secure within yourself.
Right.
So that's a form of abuse. When I was reading on it, and I saw a picture of a young boy, and he was a Black young boy, and he was looking at Superman, who was a white guy. Everybody know Clark Kent. But he was taught so much that you're not good because of your color and this, that, and the other. So you look up at this idol, but you're not being secure within yourself. And that's abuse too.
Right. So now let me ask you this. Do you think when a parent curses their children out, do you think that's a form of psychological abuse?
I do. I definitely do. It's tough for me to hear parents swearing at their children or calling them swear names and out in public, names you would call a grown man. A grown man will call another grown man, to little children. So I definitely feel as though that's a form of abuse.
What about you, Boo?
And I think, kids will then think that's the norm. Now they go out in public, and if they grow up their entire life hearing and being spoken to like that, now they think it's normal to speak to other people like that. So definitely don't agree with parents talking to their kids like that.
And they'll accept that behavior from others,
Yeah.
especially if it's a young girl. Her parents are speaking to her that way. So as she grows up, this is what she'll accept from a man now.
Right.
Now it's a cycle. That's how she'll raise her kids.
Right. What about you, E?
Oh yes, I've had friends, and it was rough to watch. Me and this one girl, we're not friends anymore, but I watched her and her children grow up, and for you to call your children MFers, and they're still children like 5, and and you're calling them these names, or you stupid, and I would cringe, because my mother, she whooped us, yes, but she never called us out our names. She just didn't do that. In our household, what was a curse word? So we just didn't do that. And so when I watch parents do that, and they, you embarrass your child. I embarrass my children in public, yes. But it's one thing if we're walking down the street and I pop you upside your head, or we're in a crowd of people and I hit you just because you did whatever. You're a child. You're going to mess up. You're supposed to. No one knows the book on right way and wrong way. It's a learning experience, so you don't abuse or talk down to your children and curse them out because you think that's the right thing to do. They're people too.
And I don't think a lot of parents realize that, because when they do that at home, they're teaching the kids that this is how you love me. So when they go to school and the teacher is trying to talk to them the way that they're supposed to be talked to, they can't receive it because nobody's ever talked to them like that. So if you're getting upset with them, then they're more prone to attach to you and listen to what you're saying, because now you've gotten me upset. But that's just the norm for them. So they think that something is wrong with you when you're acting and talking to them the right way. But once they've pushed you to that level, and now you're yelling and you're ready to punish them, now they think that that's okay. But I remember I was in public, and I saw there was this lady, and she had a 2-year-old. And now I know the lady. And so we were in the restroom, and so she had the 2-year-old, and he was crying. So she brings him in the bathroom, and he wouldn't stop crying. And so she's like, you stop crying. And you stop crying. before I knew it, she took her hand
And just be
and put it over his mouth so hard. I mean, his little eyes bulged. I'm just like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it happened so fast. And she took him and she just shook him. You stop that crying. I'm like, are you really? So I'm like, okay, let me go tell the mother, because this was the grandmother. Well, the mother came
she
in
learned
there,
it from the mother.
did the same
She
thing.
learned
I'm
it.
like, oh, Father. Now you wonder, and the kid has asthma.
She learned it. I mean, that especially verbal abuse is a learned behavior. It's all learned. I will watch the children and the grandma do the same thing. It's a learned behavior.
When I tell you, I was so shocked. I'm just like, okay, I'm about to call these people on you because, this. If you're doing this in public, I don't even want to think about what you're doing to these kids at home. But then they'll post statuses on Facebook. Oh, he had to go in for a breathing treatment. I know why now. I know why he had to go in for a breathing treatment. They need to check you all out. But it's like that right there. Now that is abuse. If you cannot get the child to calm down, it's something wrong.
That's what I never understood. If you know that your child is screaming to the top of their lungs, they're probably sleepy. Why don't you ask what's wrong? Especially them being 2 years old, they can say, where they can point or whatever. They can say something, But sometimes parents are not patient, and they just want you to be quiet right then and there. So that is the reason why she put her hand over his mouth.
I mean, I could have saw. I mean, like, but this was like aggressive, like to the point where like his little eyes just bulged. I'm like, oh.
And probably at home, she would probably just leave him in that room, whatever, and walk away. But you can't do that in a public place. So let me shut you up using my hand.
And then it's like, not only that, but that makes me think about the sexual abuse that takes place that nobody talks about. Now, when I was growing up, we were not allowed to spend the night over anybody's house. We were told you have your own bed or the bed that you share with your brother, your sister, that's where you sleep at. You don't need to go over anybody else's house. And now I see why, because through the years, it was so much stuff, so much sexual abuse going on, and people never say anything about this. So you got the uncle over here sleeping with the kids, and then you want other people to bring their kids over there.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's a predator in the house.
But it goes to, you got the females doing the same thing. You got the females that are, molesting the girls and the boys, the babysitters doing the same thing. And you thinking your child is safe because you've known this person all these years or whatever, everything is fine. You go off to work, whatever, and all the while, your children and their children, and if their children are older, they may be asleep, but their children are molesting your children.
Right.
So you don't know. They're safe with you because you're their parent. You know better. But at the same time, you have those parents you have fathers who still sleep with their daughters.
Right.
I mean, Precious, the movie Precious that came out. Her father was screwing her. And then her mother was molesting her too. So she was getting it from both ends.
Right.
So, and then that's a cycle.
It is.
That's something learned. It just doesn't naturally happen and stuff. It's learned behavior. But you have people who don't want to address it. They know that it's in them. And eventually that demon that's in you, it's going to rear its head.
Right.
So it depends on, are you ready to address it? And a lot of people are so afraid to address it. So they just figure they're just pushing it off the rug.
And what I wanted to do, I wanted to give some signs on what to look for if your child is being sexually abused, because I was a foster parent. I couldn't take the kids in because I just, I'm gonna put my hands on somebody's kid. You're not gonna be burning the shades down and all this other stuff. And so that's why I never took a kid on, but I did get my certification and I did go through the whole process. But I learned so much in that process. And I told them at the end that I would not be a good candidate for it because, again, I'm going to love you. But listening to all the stuff that those kids went through, I can see why it would not be a good ideal to hit them because that's all that they've known. And it's just so much. But I couldn't fathom waking up and, I see the fire starter just setting my curtains on fire and I can't do anything but try to sit you down and talk to you. No, sugar, I'm not thinking about talking to you right now. I'm thinking about putting my foot somewhere, where it probably will land me with some charges. So, but through that process, I learned that there are some signs that kids give off when they're being sexually abused. One of the signs is that they're always fidgety. They can't sit still. They won't sit still. Another sign was that they don't want to go. It's particular people that they don't want to go to, that like they are godly afraid to be around people. They won't make eye contact with people. They don't want to be close to other people. And then they do things to other kids that's being done to them. Or they'll do it to themselves. And you're like, okay, where did you learn this? So what I want to suggest, talk to your kids. Ask them how was their day, but also I used to ask my son this, just see who did he come in contact with throughout the day, because the people at the schools, the teachers, the custodials, all this stuff. It's like once your child leaves your presence, they are open to anything.
Pandora's box.
Anything. There's nowhere safe. The church, the bathrooms, no school. You have to watch people at all times. So those are just some of the things. What do you guys think? Do you guys know any kids that have been through sexual abuse and things that you may have noticed?
I do. So I have one child. I have a daughter, and she was raised in a very diverse neighborhood, and a lot of her friends had a lot of freedoms that I didn't provide for her. And so even if she just went to a get-together over a friend's house in high school, freshman year, sophomore year, I'm showing up, I'm meeting the parents, I'm looking around the house. You might be over Sarah's house, but does Sarah have an uncle that lives in the basement that we don't know about? And mom, no one else does that. And no one else will, but I do.
Exactly.
So she appreciates that now. But some signs that I've known from people in the past who I've known who have had issues, they're very, very comfortable and touchy with adults, specifically little girls sitting on men's laps.
Yeah, we can do that.
That is a no-no to me. Even at a certain age, your own dad and your uncle, just being comfortable sitting on men's laps. We're just going to start setting boundaries right now. Also bedwetting. Bedwetting is an indicator. If they weren't bedwetting before and now they are, that might be something you want to look into also. So those are some things. And just overly sexualized. A lot of little girls or boys now, especially, that are very sexually aware. Like you said, where did this come from? So.
What about you, Bavon? Do you know of any examples or?
Yeah, so I have, I think he's 4 or 5 years old, but for example, if there's a party where there's a bunch of kids, he'll always be off to the side by himself. He'll always play by himself. And he's just, again, very fidgety and wouldn't make eye contact and that kind of thing. And never wants to go back home. Never wants to go home at all. So he'll spend the weekend at his grandmother's house or our house or something and just wants to stay. And that's some of the signs that my wife and I have talked about. It's like something is wrong here.
Right.
And as a parent, I have a 13-year-old son, and I think a lot of parents make the mistake of not talking to their kids early, because you can't be everywhere. You have to rely on your kid to tell you what's going on.
Right.
So I think it's important to talk to kids at an early age.
And then also teach your child what's a correct and appropriate touching versus inappropriate touching. Like we were always taught, listen, you don't let nobody touch you. You don't let nobody put nothing in your mouth. And especially you have to it was back then you had to stress that with the girls, but now you have to stress it
it
with the
both.
boys as well. You have to sit down and you have to explain. And now, I mean, more earlier than ever, because it's so much sexuality is just so it's out there.
Out, yeah.
It's out there. So it's just like as soon as your children are able to talk and understand, you need to start teaching them about their body and teaching them about, you know, who should be touching you here and touching you where. You should be teaching those kids that, because if you don't teach them, they're looking, you got to think about it, they're looking at the videos and they're listening to the music and they're seeing all this touching and this feeling. So they'll think it's okay. If Mr. Doo-Wop from the school touched me here, where they saw it at the video, it's okay, because nobody is telling them that it's not okay.
But you also have those, like I know, I don't know of the two girls, a set of twins. I know their neighbor, and their father was molesting them like all their teenage lives and younger, and he was not molesting them, but he was having sex with them. And they told their mother, and she didn't buy it and stuff. And to this day, their mom is still married to their father. You know, and they went crazy.
Now, see, that's one thing that really drives me up the wall, because I know of this situation where I can't prove it like 100%, but if I was to bet, I know. And so the little girl, I mean, she had all the classic signs of being sexually abused. And I just had a feeling that mother know it. And I have to stay away from them, because I'm like, I'm going to hurt somebody, because like, you know. Like, you
But
know.
They feel that their man, or like I say, that even is taught. Well, it's always been, back in the day, it was hush hush.
Right. It's
Stuff
so
that went in the
hush-hush.
house, it stayed in the house. Daddy could be sleeping with everybody been at the house. It's going to stay in his house. It's hush hush or whatever. So now that behavior is taught to her.
Right.
So now she has her man or whatever. Yes, she has her child. Okay, yes, he's sleeping with her child, but we're going to keep this in the house, and it's going to stay between you and I and the man. And now that child is going to learn that. So the cycle continues.
And it continues. And like I say, when I've seen the little girl years ago, and I'm just like, okay, you know, some not right. Like, am I the only one that sees this? And, you know, everybody say I'm a conspiracy theorist and all this, you know, they just want to put me in a crazy home. But I'm like, I said, if I had to bet, this guy right here, and I never, like, I couldn't vibe with him. I said, okay, let me not treat him like that. But it was just something about him that just, it just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, listen, dude, look, because I know she may not say nothing, but I know. And I can't deal with it. But it's like, now, years later, she ended up having sex at an early age with an older guy. And I'm like,
That's
you know,
that's what that's what she's used to.
So I'm just like, it's so crazy. But I did, according to an online source, they say that more than 3.6 million referrals are made to child protection agencies, involving more than 6.6 million children due to some type of child abuse.
But see, even with that, those stats could be lowered if you just talk to your children and literally have a straight talk. If it happens, if it occurs, your child has to know that I can trust in my parent, or the right parent, you know, to tell them that so-and-so touched me, you know, and know that they got my back, you
Can I
know.
add something to that too? It's very important that you also teach your children the appropriate names for body parts,
Right?
Because you may have small children that may try and convey or communicate to a trusted adult that something happened to them. But they're using words like cuckoo or my name, and you know, no one understands what's happening to the kid. So that's important also.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And with that, I saw that there were 5 signs. These are just the top 5 signs that can that you can look for, that may be an indicator if it's some type of abuse going on, physical abuse going on with children. The first one was unexplained bruises and welts on the face, the throat, their arms, their butt, in unusual shapes and patterns, suggesting a belt or an electric cord. Now I'm gonna scratch. Let me scratch out that belt and that electric cord. You know, we're gonna scratch We're gonna scratch that out
We done had
because
us some whelps. And
listen, I'm telling you,
The
look like a
switches.
zigzag
Hello?
puzzle. Like
don't be from Mississippi and Georgia and mom grab that switch and pull them leaves off. It's a wrap, get two of them and braid them up and handle you. So it's like, oh, snap.
but you know what? But the bruises
Oh,
in the
yes.
face
Mhm.
and the throat and the arms and like the back. Like I know this little kid and he has like they're healed, but like his whole little face, he's probably like 8 or 9, and his little face just scars all over, healed scars. And I'm just like, but that's when my mind goes to thinking, I'm
What's
like,
really going on?
what's really going on?
Yeah.
Because when I see him, I never see him doing anything reckless or careless that would suggest that, okay, this kid is just so outgoing, like, he done broke his arm, he done did it. He doesn't give me that, like, this is something that he's doing to himself. And then his parents, when I look at and again, maybe this is just me, but when I look at his parents, he has some creepy looking parents. Like, I would not want to go home with them, and I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And I just look at the lady, and and I've told a few people, people that I know that are close to me, and I'm just like, I asked them, what do they think about this kid? Because he's around a whole bunch of kids, but for some reason, he stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I was told, there you go, your mind is one, but I can't. It's like I'm thinking about this little boy, and he's so quiet, he's so timid. He's not like the other kids his age.
Yeah.
I think child abuse robs kids of their childhood.
Yeah, it does.
Oh
So
God, it
that's why
does.
they stand
does.
out like that, because, like you said, you could have 20 kids, but that one kid
It'll
will
stand.
out because
They'll
he's
definitely
he's
stand
no
out.
longer a child. Anymore.
Innocence taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. And I'm like, I feel so bad because I'm just like, okay, so when in a situation like that, what do you do? Because what if I'm wrong? Now I've started up and I think this is why people don't say anything, because what if you are wrong because you're on the outside looking
But
in?
what if you're right
Exactly.
and don't do anything?
Exactly. And I'm just like, oh my goodness.
I mean, you can always ask him, is he okay? Have you asked him?
No.
Why not? I mean, you can
Because
come down
I know
to his
he's
level.
not, and like I know he doesn't
then-
know me like that
Then
to
he'll
confide in me.
eventually, if he confides in you and gets used to you or whatever, and you come down to his level, don't stand above him and talk down at him. Come down right to his eye level and just make friend talk to him. And then ask him, how's everything going on, blah, blah, blah. Just make small talk with him. And eventually he's going to be secure in you. And he'll tell you, okay, you know what, blah, 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 blah.
But see, and here's the thing. I've tried to befriend him, but like he's so fidgety. Like if she sees him talking, like he will.
He's afraid.
Yeah, he's gonna like not talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I know this crazy lady is, that's what I started thinking. And I'm like, okay,
But even if you do a report, okay, because I remember my son was at a daycare, my oldest one, and when he was like, I think he was about 6 months. No, he was about a year and a half or something like that. And he wound up getting his jaw broken at a daycare. And when I got home, when I got there to pick him up, I see dry blood around his nose. I see him with his clothes off. He had a pamper on. I'm like, it's 6 o'clock. Why are you, he's not dressed. And something tells me to look at his jaw. And so I pulled his lip down. He was cutting teeth. His teeth were pushed up and pushed out. And they weren't supposed to be cut yet. They were cutting. And so I'm like, oh no. So I grabbed him. I took him to the emergency room and I found out that his jaw was fractured. Fracture and broken are the same thing. And so the daycare provider said that I did this to my son. And I'm like, my son
Let
didn't
the baby stay in school all day.
Right,
And
exactly.
report.
Exactly.
And
Her sister worked for DCFS.
in pain.
And so, exactly. And so when he was at Children's Memorial, the social worker did a test. So she was like, I want you to call him over to you, and then I want you to raise your hand as if you're going to strike him. I said, oh, cool. So I called him over to me, and I raised my hand, and he jumped up and gave me a high five. And she was like, well, do it again. And I did it again, and I tried it from another angle. He jumped up and high-fived me. And so she was like, I know you're not abusing him, because he wouldn't have done that. Once you raised your hand to him, he would have flinched or ran away. So, I mean, even if you do make that report, they're going to test it before, even saying you're abusing your child or whatever. So it's not a bad thing to make that report and stuff.
Well, you all, I want to say if you to report suspicions of child abuse, please call the National Child Abuse Hotline, and that's 1-800-422-4453, 1-800-4A-CHILD. That's the quickest way to remember it. 1-800-4A-CHILD to report this. If you see anything, if you know anything, it's our responsibility to help these children. And I know that I am, after just listening to it and listening to myself tell this little boy's story, I'm definitely going to make sure I do the right thing as well, because I don't want that on my conscience.
Mhm.
So I thank you all for listening to the Jaye Spot on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartStation. Peace out.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you for hitting the J Spot on intellectualradio.com.com.